Hey, good morning, everybody. Perrin Lovett here for the Prepper Post News, courtesy of Freedom Prepper and Freedom Roasters Coffee. It is Monday, March 15th, 2021, and as previewed Friday, today we're going to shift up the format. I'm going to cover today's feature story at the end, and that feature story involves another crazy conspiracy theory from your federal government. But first, I'd like to say hello to everybody watching at YouTube and especially listening at the podcast, where we're seeing the growth at the podcast. So keep listening, and hello to everybody over at the community, where most of the or where many of the comments are now starting to pop up. Anyway, let's get right into the non-featured stories of today. I've got 10 or 12 to look at, all kind of related and all kind of leading up to where we're going with the featured story. So we've got some technology in the news. I just I love technology, but if you're using Microsoft for anything, just be aware that it's I'm not going to say it was a bill of goods, but it has some holes, some security flaws that need patching, and you can say that at any time in history. It's like it's more of a virus than an operating system and a set of software. We have no less than 10 hacking groups all over the place that have found a way to exploit the holes in Microsoft non-security and attack everything. So how does that affect you? Well, if your data is stored in the Microsoft cloud, or if you're using some sort of web-based program that will allow outside access to your hard drive, think about backing things up. Think about protecting your data, because ultimately it's up to you. If they come up with the patch tomorrow, that might be too late. We've got more hacking. We have surveillance cameras everywhere now. We are on camera all the time, from all angles, and you just can't get away from it. And we had a group of hackers. You can't make this up. This is a queer hacking group, and they did this big hack to be gay. This is what they said. And they may have done us a service, because they hacked into like 150,000 surveillance camera systems everywhere, just to show how prevalent I guess to show how easy it is to hack in, and two, how pervasive the surveillance is. And it's not going away, and we've known about this. People, the Ring doorbell system and the inside the house security cameras, people have been hacking in and harassing people and spying on people. And yet people continue to bring that stuff into the house, whether it's Alexa or the doorbell camera. It's bad enough that you've got surveillance outside. Why do you want to bring it in? Maybe you like voyeurism. Maybe you like being spied on. I don't. But everybody is looking. Some of those cameras out there are not for video surveillance. They're to track things like license plates. We've got license plate scanners everywhere. They're up on telephone poles. They're at intersections. Police cars have them. Tow trucks. You find them now in the strangest places, and they're designed to to lock onto your license plate, take a quick picture, and log your location and your information, and run an AI scan. And all that stuff is stored, and you've got all these private companies that run the cameras, run the software, and they store up all this data about you, and they sell it. And who buys it? Well, the police can use that stuff to solve crimes sometime, and no, they don't need a warrant if they're buying commercially available license plate technology captures. But do you want to be tracked everywhere all the time? I think many people in this country, perhaps most people do. They're okay with it. Only a few prefer liberty. The majority seek nothing more than fair masters. There are creative ways to defeat the license plate readers and red light cameras too. I won't get into those, but If you want to search for, here's your assignment for the week. Search ways to defeat red light cameras and license plate readers. You can do it, and just don't get caught. Speaking of getting caught, this in the USSA, we're obsessed with certain things like having no privacy and utter insanity, being tracked all over the place, giving up every last shred of freedom we possibly have, and we're also obsessed with diversity and inclusion and equity. And these words keep evolving and changing. And just when you think you're safe, that you think you're woke and hip, you're suddenly a racist or whatever, because they keep moving. They're like a school of fish. They just dart and turn. If you're on the outside, you're left out. But big corporate America is big on diversity training, and they do things like allegedly Panda Express. I don't even know what that is, and I sure as hell don't care. They had diversity training for employees, and as part of that, they had allegedly had this woman stripped down to her underwear in front of everybody, because that, yes, it does sound a lot like perversion, and she expressed her discomfort with that. I guess she's not woke enough. She's the fish on the outside, and they fired her. And now she is suing them, and if any of that is true, I hope she completely bankrupts and destroys the company, which I don't even know what it is, don't care. But if you work for big corporate America, or even small corporate America, or the government, you probably already know what I'm talking about better than I do. They're doing that all over the place, and at some point you've got to ask yourself, is this big corporate job worth it? And I would just go ahead and pre-suggest the answer is no, absolutely not. We're coming to a new age where all the old thinking, just all the old concerns, they just don't matter. Because, you jump through the burning hoops to keep your job, and then you humiliate yourself, and then the next day, you're fired for whatever reason. It's not worth it. But I've got some good news. I got some really good news. I try to put the good news in here. The Wall Street Journal reports that, and of course, all of the links are at freedomprepper.com to all of these stories. The Wall Street Journal gave us some feel-good news about the so-called pandemic. We're going into the second spring, a whole year of the longest 2 weeks in history to flatten the curve. And people are looking for personal solutions. And a lot of people find them in comfort food, alcohol, drugs, insanity. But we've got a growing trend of backyard gardens, the calming, soothing beauty of nature in the backyard. And people just want to have a pleasant, attractive place to relax. They put little bubble fountains in, and it's great. Maybe the next step, they'll start planting edibles right there in the garden. A lot of our plants are attractive enough to be aesthetically pleasing and to give you something to eat. Then we'll get them with the chickens. The chickens and the rabbits come next. Have a guinea strutting around in the garden. Moving on. Back to the other news. So last week I called it the Barbie military playset. The Russians are building hypersonic cruise missiles, and are manning up their military, as are the Chinese, Iranians, and literally everybody else that might be considered an adversary. Our military is going to high heels, lipstick, and maternity flight suits. Tucker Carlson. We're not making fun of this stuff, but Tucker Carlson looked at it about the same way that I did last week, from an old-fashioned, realistic perspective. And he's catching all kind of backlash from the goons at the Pentagon. Excuse me. I guess this show is too small. They don't know about me. I would be delighted if they would, turn some of their idiotic bile towards me. Just more stuff to talk about. But they said that his wanting to maintain some semblance of civilization does not fit well with the values of the post-American it's not even a military. What would you call it? It doesn't matter. The Barbie military playset. Unsurprisingly, new story here from Military Times. Public trust in the USSA military is collapsing. 2 years ago, it was like 70%. People, for whatever reason, have always had a higher level of trust in the armed services, much like they do with firefighters and teachers. High trust people. Now it's down to just over half, and I wonder where the disconnect is. Maybe you still have the majority of the people who are not woke, who want, if they have to have a military, they want a military that can win a war. Period. That's the only purpose. They don't need a giant social services, transvestite training corps. But anyway, take a look at that. The military is very concerned, not concerned enough to get back on track, because I guess all the old guys are out now, and all the 06 and above are just sinecure political types that'll do whatever they're told. Hey, I want to get my retirement, and we just don't care. But we should care. I've got a great op-ed from Love Crisis magazine, always eye-opening. Sometimes it's not on target. This really is. It's about shame, and the shame of not having enough shame in this country, because we have one health crisis affecting another, and it never stops. They cover some of the stats I've gone over lately about how 70+% of Americans are just woefully out of shape, and it's oddly enough, 70% of Americans that end up in the hospital or dying from the so-called pandemic just happen to be out of shape. And it's just 70% that they're forecasting to a 70% drop in the population. Are these things related? I don't know. But in the old days, we didn't make fun of the unfortunate people, but shame had a purpose. You didn't want to be the glutton, and society held itself in check. And now with the new way of doing things, anything goes. And when that leads to problems, it's your fault. Everything's always our fault. And that's the feature story I'm about to get to. But first, we've got a point of pride, a holdover literally from the old America, lurking down in Arkansas. The police get a bad rap, or they get the correct rap for a number of reasons, but not down in Arkansas, where we have an officer named Smith. His nickname is Buckshot, and he's been a sheriff's deputy and a city police officer for, I forget, 50 something years, 60 years, a long time. He's 91 years old, and he's still on patrol, and he's a self-described people lover. He's got a great quote about how he's taken more people home than he's arrested over his long career. So community-oriented policing from a guy who just looks honest and trustworthy, and he does not look 91. I mean, you can tell he's an older fella, but not, and he's still driving a patrol car, packing a gun that he doesn't use, and we could still have stuff like that nationwide. We can still get it back. All right, one more. This is the lead up to the feature story. As you know, we had the horrible white supremacist Nazi, right-wing attack on the U.S. Capitol, and white supremacy, right-wing Nazism, all the other bad words. It's out of control. For instance, the Ku Klux Klan tried to burn down the federal courthouse in Portland, and oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, it was Antifa. It was always Antifa. So we had a whole year of Antifa, BLM, burn, loot, and murder, burn everything, especially the courthouse in Portland. And they put barricades around it and fences, and they had the stormtroopers out there to guard it. So last, I guess it was Friday, they said, well, things have calmed down. They took all the barriers away, and right back came the rent-a-mob, just right back, and tried to set a fire. It's never going to end. But In a second, I'm going to tell you about what your government is doing to make it so much worse. But first, here's where I put on my, oh gee, I don't have my hat to come begging. Um, Here's your daily to-do list for the Freedom Prepper set. And this is a new format. I'm not used to. We're reversing, shifting gears here. Bear with me. Remember to like the video on YouTube. I'm just not used to begging for help. But help us help you. Like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. I was afraid they were going to can us because, pursuant to that Time magazine story, certain social media elements were doing their part to as part of the secret conspiracy to save democracy from itself, and it worked. Hats off to them. I think the loyal opposition here is safe now. Go ahead and sign up and spread the word. Spread the word. Share the links. Also, I think you can. I think you can subscribe to the podcast as well. If not, go ahead and bookmark it on your computer, tablet, or phone, and spread the word to friends and family. And the most important thing you could do is to get over and join the community, where we had the rapid growth up front. It's kind of slowed, but I think we're getting it's smart growth. We're getting people that are really interested and committed, and not a single problem yet. We're like 4 months into a new social media platform, and it's just I'm gonna jinx it, but it's going great, and you can be part of that. The last thing, always embrace freedom and keep on prepping. Now, with all that babbling out of the way, let's get down to our feature story of the day, and it's this conspiracy theory. Get your tinfoil hats out, because we've got a conspiracy theory from the FedGov. Everybody on their side, they always if you say anything, especially if it's anything remotely true, crazy conspiracy theory. It's like racist or diversity or all these other buzzwords that mean nothing that they throw out. They're the largest pushers of this stuff. In fact, they codify it in their laws. I mean, conspiracy is a crime, and it can be tacked on to just about anything, state or federal crime. And the government literally, under usually falsely sworn affidavits, they come up with all these facts that they allege as part of their theory about what conspired between these conspirators in this conspiracy to do anything, and they keep pushing it. For instance, I just talked about Portland, all the white supremacists, Antifa, BLM, Nazis burning the courthouse. Never mind that that's been going on for the better part of a year now. And never mind the fact that we just experienced a coup. The dark state, I recognize enemies when they do a good job. They stole the country away. I'm still coming to grips with what that means, because it is what it is. Suffered a coup, riots forever, but the real problem is you. We had 1 million people that were upset about their country being looted away from them, and they showed up to protest. That's in the First Amendment. Redress of grievances, peaceful assembly, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. That's all gone. When you lose the government, you lose the individual amendments too. Not that they've mattered in a while, but some of the people got carried away. There were some infiltrators. There were some people from the other side, but a small crowd of the larger protest set went into the U.S. Capitol. That's the people's property. They went to visit, and there was a little bit of trouble, a little bit. Why is this a big deal? Well, because anything can happen to us. They don't care. But if anything happens to them right there where they're meeting, that's the most important thing in the world. So that's why this this insane story about the riot, the insurrection, the civil war at the Capitol just keeps going on and on and on. And they're serious about it. The lies keep getting exposed. I watched the thing happen on live TV. It looked fun. honestly. I mean, I know, we had some people that were seriously hurt. The poor lady was shot by the unarmed white woman, shot by the police officer, who was doing his job, by the way. Some folks had heart attacks, but, you know, it happened in the city named after the general who rebelled against a tyrannical king. So, is it fitting? Yeah, but not not from their side. And this is the total division. It's not us versus them. They're off. If they were off on their own, island doing this stuff, no one would care. It's the fact that they live in their own world and they expect to lord it over us and basically have us as slaves. That's intolerable. But they're not going to let up on this. Here's the quote from Politico: "The investigation and prosecution of the Capitol attack will likely be one of the largest in American history, both in terms of the number of defendants prosecuted and the nature and volume of the evidence." And they're going after right wing groups. These are the same people that'll tell you that Snopes has debunked this theory, conspiracy theory that the left goes after the right wing. Okay, well, why are they going after the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys? And yet Antifa still runs wild. I think it's a rigged game. It's one-sided. It's rigged. And we had a comment Friday at the community about how it's just treason. The comment was actually about Nancy Pelosi and gun control, all part of the same story. Yeah, it's no doubt it's treason, and we need to prosecute her for treason. We should, along with pretty much everybody else up there, but we're not going to because we don't have the ability to prosecute crimes or even apparently to repel coups and invasions and attacks on our sovereignty and our freedom. It's up to them to do that, and the DOJ, RNC, DNC, ABC, XYZ, they're the problem. They're not going to investigate themselves. It's up to us to find newer, better solutions, and we're going to keep working on that. I'm out of time, so we'll work on it more with this change format tomorrow. Have a great Monday, kids.